Good morning. Just a couple quick thoughts. I especially think it's very cool when the Old Testament reading and a New Testament reading go together so well. And so my random reading this morning was from Jeremiah 6, which kind of looks random when you first read it. It's mostly just a warning of sorts to Jerusalem that the time of grace, the day of patience is running thin, and that God has tried to speak to them so many times and reached out to them and sent prophets to share the word with them, and they wouldn't listen. And so there's some really straightforward verses like that I'll show you. And then that relates so well to actually both of my readings. The reading in a year from Luke, and part of that reading was where Jesus was talking about a rich man who was rich in this world but never had a mind for God and caring about God's ways. And then at the end, he dies and he goes to hell, and he reaches out and says, first of all, can you send Lazarus to bring me some water? And again, he's thinking that Lazarus will still be his servant, and Lazarus is in heaven, and he's not needing to serve the rich man. And really, no one's serving the rich man. He is suffering because he had his time on earth where he cared about his riches. Anyway, so then the rich man says, well, send someone at least to talk to my 5 brothers. Actually, Lazarus again. Send Lazarus to my house for my 5 brothers. Warn them so that they don't have to be in this place of torment. And then Abraham's reply is important, and he says, they have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them. So Moses and the prophets, again, kind of the Old Testament, they have the word. And then he says, well, they won't listen to that. They'll only listen to a person. And Abraham's like, well, if they won't listen to my word, they won't listen to the people, even if you send someone from the dead, Lazarus. So it's this idea of listening, that God is speaking to us. Sometimes he speaks louder than others, but like with Elijah, most of the time he says, I'm going to come in a whisper. Not necessarily going to holler at you, but I will be there to give words to you if you're willing to listen to them. And so we go back to Jeremiah, and then we go to Matthew. So Jesus, after he's having a talk about woe to the Pharisees, woe to the hypocrites, it's not going to be good for people who put their pride, who put their hope in their pride, who put their emphasis and their focus and their energy into the outside world and how they look and please the outside world. Woe to them, because in the long run, God sees your heart, and it's God's heart that really matters. In the very end of chapter 23 of Matthew, Jesus says these beautiful words, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem," again back from Jeremiah 6. And really, no, Jesus is talking to Jerusalem, but he's also talking to any people who are not listening, who are rejecting the grace that God is giving. Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those sent to you. How often I have longed to gather your chicks together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. Look, your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So God is so long-suffering and patient, not impatient, and patient. And there's a day of grace and a time of grace. And as long as we're living right now, we have an opportunity to hear God, and that is so precious. But like in Jeremiah 6, you were not willing, he says in Matthew 23. And in Jeremiah 6, he says, to whom can I speak and give warning? This is Jeremiah 6, verse 10. Who will listen to me? Their eyes are closed, their ears are closed, so they cannot hear. The word of the Lord is offensive to them. They find no pleasure in it. They're not trying to listen. Later he says, verse 17, I appointed watchmen over you, kind of like what Jesus was saying. I sent you the prophets and you stoned them, like with John the Baptist, like with Elijah, even like with the apostles that are coming. Listen to the sound of the trumpet, Jeremiah 6:17. But you said, we will not listen. It's just over and over, because they have not listened to my words and have rejected my law. We all are guilty of that in different ways, of rejecting what God is trying to tell us. And we just start every new day saying, God, I don't want to reject any of the precious words you're giving me. One, because they're there to help me. You're not there to hurt me. Help me remember that. You're not there to just deprive me. You want me to have abundance. But also, your words are of love. Your words are there to show me the way to forgiveness and to heaven. And if I ever reject them, it's only because I'm following the devil's lies. I'm falling for my own selfishness and my own stupidity. And I clear my head, God. Give me ears and a heart that's humble to listen and thinks that I have something to learn. And we all think we want our own way. We're grabbed hold of by strongholds that want us to reject Jesus and believe that it's better holding on to something other than him. And so it's just such a state of sadness, because eventually it comes to what is said in Jeremiah 6, where he says, take warning, O Jerusalem. This is Jeremiah 6 verse 8, or I will turn away from you and make your land desolate, so that no one can live in it. And then Matthew chapter 23 verse 37 at 38 is where this word desolate again. You see repeated words and you say, wait, I just saw that. Look, your house is left to you desolate. Desolate is like another word for kind of wilderness. That is a sad state. Wilderness, empty, wild, voids. And that is never the type of life that God has wanted for his children when they're in his care. He wants them to only be filled and to have life abundantly. It's in John 10 where Jesus is talking about being the good shepherd. He says, the thief comes to steal, to kill, to destroy. I come so that they can have life and have it abundantly, have the best life. So again, Jesus is warning of a desolation of time where they were used to having this temple. They were used to looking and thinking, convincing themselves that they were always going to stay rich of sorts and filled and prideful. So this is a warning in both Matthew 23 and in Jeremiah 6, well, and in the Luke verse I gave you too, that pay attention, listen while you can, listen while God speaks, because like chapter 6 again of Jeremiah 19, because they have not listened to my words and have rejected my law. And the first part, I am bringing disaster on the people. And then back in the end of Jeremiah 6, they are called rejected silver because the Lord has rejected them. And so it starts off by saying people reject Jesus and they will not listen, and they turn their hearts hard and they turn their ears to him. And God doesn't force people to listen. He sends prophets, he sends people, he sends situations for us to listen. But he also, at time after time, eventually says, I will allow you to really be in a situation that you've created in your own heart of emptiness, of rejection. I will allow you to see what rejection looks like. God still loves them, but he allows them to see what happens when we reject God's ways, his words, and his love. And it's just a sad sad time, and Jesus is feeling that sadness, where he's just emotional, where he says, "Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, I wanted better for you, but you were not willing." And then Jeremiah 6, the same message. You were not willing to listen. And then in Luke, where he just says, your people will not listen. I can send them to that house, but they haven't heard and they won't listen. So where do we start today except for just saying, God, I need you to put in my heart the ability to listen. And he will hear us out of our need and out of our humility and our honest hearts. And he will forgive us and wash away everything that's wrong about us and fill us in a way that only God can do and satisfy our hearts. So God bless you today. Thanks for listening.